Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Corbett Storick. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Corbett Storick. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walter Storick Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table.
There's nothing worse when I answer the phone and they say, "Yes, ma'am." And I'm like, oh.
No one's ever done
They
that.
do that to me once a week, at least. Once a day.
Oh, my goodness.
Happens all the time. All the time.
Really?
I'm like, and then I'm like, yes, can I help you? I'm trying to, I just can't get, that just doesn't go.
Well, if I knew how to change this
It's so
setting,
high, it's
I
so
would.
high pitched.
Yeah.
The neighborhood dogs are running in.
Well, for those who are now joining us, Chris wishes I could make his voice deeper, but I don't know how to do that, so we're gonna leave that for the next one. Welcome to the Orange Hammer, Stacy, Chris. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having us.
I think the third or fourth time, if we count your separate appearances. Pretty awesome. And we agreed it would be fun today to just talk about the ins and outs of the maintenance of being a homeowner, as we're all homeowners, but also we all share a pretty unique sight on between selling, renting, and building them and maintaining them. Mm-hmm. All of us are doing that on a more regular basis than I'd say the average person. I think a lot of homeowners, and maybe you can agree or disagree, I think a lot of homeowners don't actually think about how much maintenance goes into a home, because it can be almost a full-time gig.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if we were just to start, jumping in, breaking down, I guess we could start, top to bottom, out to in, which would start with, your roof, your siding, your windows, your doors. I don't know how much regular maintenance there is other than just kind of like you got to visually check that stuff on a regular basis. I know for roofs, when you're looking at shingles, you're going to start to see those pull-ups, those tear-ups. The ridge will start to fade. You'll see the asphalt crumbling away, moss build up. Mm-hmm. That's pretty terrible. Those are go-to signs. And then obviously just like years of, wear and tear. And then I guess immediately the biggest roof, indicator would be, leak signs on the interior.
Right.
Those are going to look like sheetrock stains in the ceiling, exterior wall dripping down, pretty much, just like wet marks or discolorations in the paint. I don't know if there's any other signs other than that.
If it's untreated or left and it keeps leaking, mold is going to start to
Yeah. Okay.
come around.
Yeah. So you could get mold. Let's say you had like a 2-story, and there was a leak in the roof, but it was going straight down the wall. So the second story had no show, and it went
Right.
right to the first floor, and you start to see some mold. You'd be like, oh, wow, why is this mold growing? Because
Yeah.
you wouldn't. Your first instinct in that regard would not be the roof, but it could be, because there could just be nothing blocking the path.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Mold's a good indicator.
And one other thing, Corb, is gutters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clean-
So cleaning the gutters, that's a fantastic. That's, I would say, twice a year.
Twice a year.
Yeah. Usually just coinciding with all of the leaves on all of your trees are down. Do it then, and then 6 months after that, do it a second time.
Yeah.
What are your opinions on the gutter guards? Because I've known the opinion seems to be right down the middle.
So we looked into it for some HOAs, and it was very expensive, and they were still going to need to be cleaned.
Yeah.
So they decided it was more cost effective to just have them cleaned,
Yeah.
and they decided not to go with them.
Yeah. Have you dealt with any gutter
I have.
guard related stuff?
I have, and it's the same thing. You still have to maintain them. So there are a little bit of pros to it, but I think bottom line, they're more expensive, and it's not like getting rid of your leaves for good. You
Yeah.
still have to do maintenance.
Yeah, it
to
is
make
not-
sure your roof doesn't get damaged.
Yeah, it's
So,
not like a one and done. I
Yeah.
paid this money and I could just go to sleep on
Right.
that thing and
Right.
remove that from the maintenance thing. Like it still has to be visually inspected. You're still gonna have to get up on a ladder. I know that most of them, even when they advertise against it, still pine needles
Yep.
get in there. And then you mentioned the cost, because there's levels of this, and I know that there's like I'm just gonna ballpark an average house here because all of mine are similarly sized, but like there's like the $300 version of the gutter guard, which is basically like comes in sections, and when they come to a section that's too long, they just chop it and they just screw it down. And then there's kind of like the, we make this like custom to your gutter, and it's like $1,500 a house to get this stuff installed. And I had somebody price like all of the houses, and one by one, I felt bad wasting his time, because I was just like, this is so much more than the cost of 2 gutter cleanings a year, and I know I'm not going to own this house for more than 10 years. I just like did that quick mental math, and I was like, this times 2 times 10 years is still less than what you want me to pay you.
Right.
It just didn't make any sense.
And what I'm finding is a lot of the gutters that are currently installed are too small.
Yeah, so most houses have 5-inch, and we put 6-inch up across the board.
6 inch is what I always thought. So some people are doing 5-inch.
Well, a lot of older
The
houses
older
have
ones.
5-inch.
Oh,
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
And then also, if you have an inexperienced, inexperienced might not even be the correct word. Let's just say like somebody's trying to save a nickel, and they lay a second layer of shingles over the first layer of shingles, which we know is like not ideal, but technically not like a malpractice, negative, like you're hurting someone on purpose thing. But you've got to overlay that end piece just a little bit, you know what I mean, where it ends on the roof. And if you to cover up the first layer of shingle, lay the next layer of shingle a 1/2 inch, all of a sudden your gutter is a 1/2 inch smaller, just by the sheer fact that like
Right.
the roofing is now protruding into the, so that can be where all of a sudden the correct size gutter really isn't sized, even though like it's correct. Now the roofing has compromised it, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But most of the time, and when we're talking residential, if you're doing new gutters, it's 6-inch across the board.
Yeah, and the pitch of the roof. So if you get a steep roof and it rains really hard, it's going right over that gutter.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
And metal. So if you're doing metal versus shingle,
Yeah.
like I remember, actually think it was one of the Ruth Street houses that you both have been involved in, and it was one of the situations where had we gone with a shingle roof, we could have done a 5-inch. We would have done a 6 anyway,
But when we chose to do the metal, it was like you no longer have the option. The water goes faster off the metal roof, and so you need the bigger gutter, and therefore the bigger downspout. Yeah. So it just like it's one of those things.
And one other thing we run into is with the HOAs is they tied the gutters, the downspouts, they tied them into landscaping, the black plastic tubing, and ran it underground.
Right.
And
That's
so
great.
they would get filled up, and you can't really run something through those to clean them out.
Yeah.
They break
I've seen
over
that
time.
a
They
lot.
break down and break.
Yeah.
So it's
So what we do to avoid that is we put our underground
drainage.
system in white PVC.
Yes.
And we have multiple cleanouts.
Yes.
So you can
that's
get
the smart
like
thing
a
to do.
plumbing snake
That's right.
or a hose even to just get the leaves, build up gunk, whatever it is. That's obviously like a great tip if we're doing a new construction conversation. We're doing a maintenance conversation. So like if you have a home with that, that's going to make your life a lot easier. But if you have that black corrugated PVC, really all you can do is carefully make that if we're talking about a clog, you got to carefully make that disconnect. You got to, clean the spout. And then, all you can really do is like get in there with some tools and kind of grab chunks out and use a hose because I don't know what you can put like in there that won't damage that pipe because like the first house we did with that black pipe, it got destroyed by the weed whackers of the tenants. So I was like, we're done with this black corrugated. Yeah. This is the minimum for a reason. So we go with that PVC that'll hold up against everything.
Yeah. For maintenance wise, you might be better off just disconnecting it. I mean,
and just letting it run on and putting like a temporary like 3 foot just to divert away from your what's it called, foundation. Yeah. That could lead right to the next thing of foundation. Well, I guess we kind of skipped over windows and doors a little bit. So like there's not a terribly large amount of maintenance other than cleaning them. You should be cleaning your windows on the inside regularly. I mean, if you're OCD like me, your siding and windows and doors should get, yearly or maybe every other year a good pressure washing. You can hose off the yearly what's the green stuff called again? I forget.
Algae or
no,
the pollen?
Yeah, the pollen. Sorry, I just blanked for some reason. You can hose that off yearly, but you're still going to have buildup that like a pressure washer is probably going to be needed and most likely some solvent, like some specialty house bleach or that like good foam stuff.
Yeah, if you don't have a pressure washer, you could try wet and forget.
What is that?
You spray it on with a hose and then just forget it. And once it rains, it's get almost the same effect as pressure washing.
Wow.
For algae, mildew, works on sidewalks, driveways. It's a pretty neat product.
Nice, because I'm one of those people who like the inside of my house, as you guys see, is like always very clean. The outside of my house, like I have it mowed, but other than that, I don't really do much. And then every like 3 years, I'm like, okay, time to pressure wash with like some serious chemicals because I have like one side that gets no sun, just has all this algae built up on this one side.
Look up wet and forget.
So now I'm gonna
There's no chlorine, but it's got other chemicals.
No chlorine.
Just check it out and see if it's safe for your house. But
nice. And then windows, I mean, visual inspection is really all I can say about maintenance. Just check those seals. If they're wood, check for peeling paint. Yeah. If they're plastic and vinyl, check for cracking.
And if you are going to paint, make sure you don't paint them shut.
Oh my God. Yes, ma'am. Oh, give me some.
That's a big one.
Give me some. Yeah. I had a painter, I can't even remember his name, but his team caulked them shut. Oh, no. And I was like,
doesn't make any sense
guys,
to me at
like
all.
I had just spent a lot of time like sanding them and like cleaning these wood windows and they were all functional. I couldn't believe it. Well, the house is still rented.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
But
you can break
should be
that
able
window
to
in
open
fire.
your windows.
No, you should.
Like,
you should.
you know.
You should. But also in North Carolina, like I feel like we don't open our windows that much because it's too
So
Pollen.
too
many.
humid.
Lots of buyers though talk about they come from up north and they've always had their screens. They're like, where are the screens at? That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Where are your screens? Always keep, if you're not going to put them on your windows, always keep them in the attic or underneath the house so that the next person coming along can have them because people do look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the new windows at Braxton came with screens. I just put them in. That was like a big final thing because I was like,
That
not going to.
place looks so different. I can't wait to go see it. The front though looks so different.
Well, you saw it like day one with that like detached, crappy screened-in thing and the brick patio and like the kitchen that was weirdly narrow and extremely long and one decrepit bathroom. Yeah, I mean, I mean, we did our thing.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to see it because but when I saw that front, I'm like, that isn't even the same house. It's
that was one of the first, or is like the first like true actual collaboration on design because normally it's like it's mostly my mom and my dad, but this was the first one where it was like, okay guys, I think we should do this, and we really did like listen to each other even down to some color scheme stuff.
Great.
And I think I think it turned out really nice. You know, it's definitely
I like the color
unique.
too.
No, thank you.
Yes, I like that color.
Well, it's got its orange. It's got its orange door as of 2 days ago.
Should be.
It's the classic Dakota orange door. Yeah. Okay, so keeping it back on track with some exterior maintenance. We talked about pressure washing, siding. Obviously, like in that pressure washing moment, you could see any other things that might need to be maintained, like if, you know, depending on your type of siding, if it's, you know, plasticky or vinyl, if it has cracked, replace that piece. You know, if it's wood and you see it deteriorating, replace that piece. Some wood chipping, sand that off, repaint it. That all really comes down to just like visual inspection. You know, if you turn a blind eye, that'll be the corner that rots.
Right.
And then when you're out there looking at your siding, look further down and look at your foundation. Look for cracks. Look for wet spots. Look for some earth that is sunk away. Like, where'd that earth go? Why did it happen? It's always water, FYI. Like, spoiler alert. This is like a Marvel movie. The good guy's always going to win, and the thing wrong with your house is always water. It's always water. I've said it before, water is the enemy.
Yes.
The irony of it being our lifeblood. We don't have to talk about that.
The irony is the thing that we least look at is the foundation. In the crawl space, it is the least. I have seen,
and it's the most important thing.
Yes, I have seen fantastic houses from the floor up, and then they do an inspection, and they're like, "This is the worst crawl space I've ever seen. Water's running through it. The vapor barrier's all chipped and chopped off, and again, water's a big thing." Go under there. Oh, and the vents not being open when they're supposed to be at the certain time of the season. Make sure your vents are done at the, and I can't remember, open in the fall, closed in the summer.
I'm going to be honest.
They're going back and forth.
I have forgotten it, and the modern way of building is ventless crawl spaces.
They're going away from the vents.
They're just for like new construction. Like there's almost no new construction where they're putting a vent. It's all.
But we sell so many old houses.
No. Of course,
yes,
you're selling and buying.
Finally.
You're a realtor. Yes, of course. But you know, just for those listening,
I'm glad that they finally are doing that.
It turns out to just be better to not have that thermal break between the floor inside the crawl space. So what they're doing now is there's no vents, and instead of insulating between the floor joists underneath the floor you walk on, they are insulating the crawl space walls.
Yes.
And you're just heating and cooling your little bit of crawl space. And and for those who are immediately like, why would I pay the extra money to heat and cool your crawl space? It actually turns out to not be extra money, because by using the earth that is a better thermal guard, whatever the term technically is, I don't know, but the earth is better than the insulation in the floor. So we just keep that thermal package. Now think of it as walls that go straight all the way down to the earth and then your roof. So it ends up being infinitely more efficient.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is good.
Helps fight against moisture problems too, which we know down here. That's a big problem in crawl spaces.
Which is what causes mold, which every single house has mold underneath the house, almost. I mean, for the most part, there's going to be a little bit no matter what. But
well, that's because it's not sexy to, like, I think it's super sexy to talk about how I've got PVC pipes all the way around my property. And I show people, look at those 3 pipes at the end of the thing. That's where all of them come around and they all bundle there to a big T. And like, I love that. But that's not sexy. That's not gorgeous kitchen cabinets. That's not marble counter. You know, that doesn't sell. But in fact, it's what's going to stop you from having problems later on. But it's a bigger upfront cost also.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, you know, a lot of those corners get cut because people want to spend the money on the stuff that they're going to see.
Yeah.
And the reality is upgrading the stuff you see later is way cheaper than having to repair some I'm using quotes, some guts in your home.
Right.
But nobody wants to think like that.
No, of course not. But reality is, if you're in an older house, keep maintaining underneath, because one day you go to sell that house, it's going to be expensive. If there's issues, it's going to be expensive. That's the biggest issue that we have.
So let's talk about some crawl space issues. So water running through it. So that means water's getting in. So how is the water getting in? You're going to find that by doing a walk around your crawl space. You're going to see what should be some nice, flat, smooth earth with, you know, grass, hypothetically. There's going to be a divot, like maybe a snake dug a hole. But instead of a snake dug a hole, it's going to be water funneled in because there's some sort of break in your waterproofing. Dig that out with a shovel and figure it out. Patch that with some waterproofer. If you don't want to do it, call me. Call somebody. I don't care where you are. But, like, if you just think, like, oh, it's not that big a deal right now, it's the worst possible thinking, because even no matter what, even if you're living there for the rest of your life, it'll be a bigger problem. If you're selling it in a year, it's going to be something you pay for at closing because it's going to be discovered.
Yeah.
It's not like the literal inspectors love to find that shit. They get juicy on that. They're like, oh, look at this crawl space from hell. Let me get my mask. They love documenting that
and
48 pages later. Yeah. And then you have to either argue or fight for, you know, 10 grand to remedy whatever situation. And then you know, and then it, because you haven't dealt with it when it was small, you get to argue like, well, we don't know what it's going to look like when we start opening stuff up. It could be $20,000. And all of a sudden, as a seller, you have to lose all this money when in fact it could have been like something small you could have just like taken care of real quick. So
and the biggest thing I think is just periodic inspections, because you could have a pipe leak in just a small little drip. In your crawl space and have
and don't even know
about it. And then you go down there and there's just a
we see that so much.
You you definitely want to go in your crawl space at least once a year.
Yeah,
probably more, but like that's a minimum.
Yeah,
I would say. I am lucky now that I'm saying it out loud. I have my house water filter that I have to go check once a year. So in the process of just walking in there and giving that visual check and possibly ordering a new filter for it, if I noticed something astray, like a big leak or, you know, an animal or whatever it might be, there you go. I have that like built in, but that not everybody has that like built in scheduled thing. But for listeners, you should bust out your phone if you're a homeowner and just plug this stuff in. You know, there's some stuff that you should be checking every year.
Absolutely.
There's some stuff that you should be checking more often and less often, and we'll continue to detail them. But you should definitely be walking around your property with looking for problems once a year. Not just, I want to do my morning walk. Like, no, you're probably meditating or on the phone or whatever. But like once a year, your calendar should go off. Go look for problems. Walk the outside.
And as you say, water is just the end all for damage. It is.
Yeah.
water heaters cause the most damage.
Yeah.
Water and
especially
toilets
if they're upstairs.
Yes.
on the second floor.
Well,
Yep.
we'll get to those for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, why not? Actually, that's a great segment. We pretty much covered the outside of stuff. Again, like doors and windows. Check the seals. Look for peeling paint, any cracks and stuff. Other than that, you know, wood doors are going to slowly rot. They're also going to swell and shrink. Metal doors are going to ding. And
so I've got an example on my house. When they built my deck, there was a door going onto the deck, flashing underneath. They nailed through the flashing when they put the deck in.
yeah.
So the little nail holes. So over 10 years, that rain was getting down in between the walls. So the walls were never stained. There was no sign of leak.
Mm-hmm.
There was a crack in the sheetrock. And what happened was the water got down into the 2x4s and it looked like they were burned.
They were
no
so
mold.
black from rot.
They shrunk down to, they just rotted down.
Oh my.
And that whole room was ready to I mean, but there was no signs ever. There was never any signs, but it was just, they went through the flashing when they built the deck originally. And
probably like not even that big of nails.
No, nope.
Doesn't take much,
Nope.
especially when you have that length of time.
Nope. And there was no mold. That was fortunate. There was no mold, but it did a lot of damage to the wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not even, you know, something you could inspect.
No.
You know?
Nope.
So
Yeah.
I don't even have a solution for that.
No.
You know, you could put you know, if you're doing new construction, you could put some sort of interior wall mold monitor system, and if it went off, you could cut a small hole and see what's going on. But like, other than that, what do you even do? You had to wait for a crack.
Yep.
And most people would see a crack and not think leak. They'd see foundation shift.
Yep.
Most of the time when you see sheetrock crack. That's what most people think foundation shift, which FYI again is water related. Just so in case anyone's gonna pretend that there's something else. It's water. Yeah. Carolina clay may be the worst, but it's still always water related.
Yep.
So we jump into water heaters, which we should say the umbrella of plumbing and just water related stuff. So on the outside, and I know this from personal experience, twice in 2 months, both my hoses cracked from the frost and were complete garbage. And when I went to use them, they barely water came out, and I could see and hear the water leaking behind it.
Oh gosh.
Behind the siding. So like, luckily, I just turned it off, didn't use those 2 out of 3 hoses. My plumber came and fixed that, no big deal. But there's no solution for that. They were the frost-proof hoses.
Wow.
And
Really?
oh yeah. Granted, like, I had them put in when I first bought this house, so they were 7+ years old. Because that was the first thing I did. There was only one hose bib here, and it was all the way over there, furthest from everything. And I called my plumber, and I was like, so first of all, why are there isn't it code? He's like, no, code is 1. And I was like, well, it's not even by the driveway where I'd wash the car.
Right.
So I was like, one first thing, put one there, put one by the back door. So he did that, and he was like, well, while I'm here, that one's really cheap. I was like, okay, go buy 3 frost proofs, replace that one, add 2. Anyway, so they completely went. There's unfortunately no maintenance for that other than give them a check, you know, every once in a while. If there is like an unusual frost coming, you can just like crack it open just the tiniest bit. They say to do that with your faucet sometimes to stop the pipe from freezing.
Just a little bit of a drip.
Just the smallest possible drip, and also disconnect and drain your hoses for the winter. So that's some pretty good maintenance as well. But then talking about water heaters, so you were joking, but not so joking. They cause a tremendous amount of damage depending on where they're located. And it should be an actual crime to put them in the attic. I don't know why it's allowed. Obviously, a lot, if not all, townhomes are built on cement slabs. So that's usually where they end up. But they should just simply sacrifice a water heater closet. You've both seen me do it when I had room to put it in the crawl space, because it's just the better place to have it for people to service it. And I put a light in there even for the people that, you know, do whatever they've got to do. So water heater maintenance, if you've got the old school electric big tank drum, you're going to need a hose. You're going to need a wrench, or you're going to need a plumber. Honestly, you could do it yourself, everybody listening. But if it scares you, don't be scared. Just get a plumber. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Call someone, call your friend who has it. But anyway, yearly, you should be draining it. And everybody who's got an electric water heater, including both of you, I know you don't drain it every year.
I do not.
Yeah, I know.
I'll admit.
Yeah, I know for absolute fact because nobody does it, including myself. I don't have that anymore, but
I'm on a well, so we get sediment. So it's really needs to be drained.
So you really and if people are wondering why do you have to drain it, that's why. It's sediment. Even if you're not on a well, sediment is basically anything that is too small to be microscopically consumed inside our water, like tiny little rocks and stuff. It comes in the water, and the first place it usually goes to in your home is the water heater, because most of us have, even if you have it on cold, it's still slightly warmer than what comes out of the ground most of the time. And that sediment is going to build up in the bottom of that giant drum known as your water heater. And if you don't drain it with the valve conveniently located at the bottom, that sediment builds and builds and builds and builds, and you literally just have less hot water on demand. So when you're like, oh, we took a shower, we're out of hot water. You hear that like in movies and stuff. Like, that's because half the tank's full of rocks. Literally, half the tank is full of rocks. So hook up a hose. If it's in your attic, go up there, hook it up, run it out a window. If it's in your crawl space, hook it up, run it out the door. Just drain it. You need a wrench to turn it from off to on. Let it drain. Before you do that, hit the cutoff switch at the top so no water just keeps going.
Right.
And there you go. It's that simple. If you have the tankless gas, it's basically the same thing. When you pop off the little cover, there's an in and out, and you just like hook up a little pump cleaning thing into a bucket of water, fill that like halfway up with water. You can YouTube it. It's not that complicated. And you just like let it run for like 45 minutes. You do this once a year, something like that. Once again, buy all the stuff or just call a plumber. Like I'm not telling you that you should immediately own all of this stuff just because you're a homeowner.
Right.
But what you should do is day one on buying the house, put a calendar mark a year from then that says drain the water or arrange with plumber or do it myself, whatever. That's what I'm saying should be your responsibility as the homeowner. I'm not putting on anybody to become Bob the Builder. That's not what I'm saying. I do it myself because I can, and I have like, friends that I can call, like Jeremy, who you've both met. He has the thing that I can hook up. So, hey man, can I borrow that? I have a bucket. So, that ends up being super easy. I pop on a TV show for an hour and then it's done.
Yep.
But not everybody can do that, and I'm not saying you should, but you should have the responsibility enough to open up your phone and say, okay, set this for on repeat for every year, check water heater.
Right.
And 6 months after that, check, do exterior walk around, clean gutters every 6 months. Or, if you have a lawn person, they'd probably be happy to do it.
Yeah.
If you have somebody who's mowing your grass, which a lot of listeners do have a yard person, a grass person, whatever you want, a landscaper. Hey man, I'll give you $100 twice a year when you're already here. I have a ladder, or do you have a ladder? I bet you.
Yeah.
Or, call Stacy, who has a number of contacts, or call me, who has a number of contacts. Any roofer has a big enough ladder to get up there.
I absolutely recommend hiring somebody to clean your gutters.
I'll never do it.
Don't get on a ladder.
No, I'll never do it. Yeah. I definitely hire somebody.
Stay off of the ladders.
Yeah.
Stay off of the ladders.
And that's something that, like, as simple and little thing as it is, especially if you have some interesting terrain, hire somebody with some insurance.
Yes.
Yeah. If you have like the flattest thing ever on a little 1-story and you need an 8-foot ladder, you could hire your next door gym or whatever. But if you live on a cliff, figure it out. Yeah. Also, side note, if you're building new construction, just take all trees within 60 feet down. That'll get rid of your gutter cleaning problem for life. FYI.
There you go.
And then, if we're talking again more about like water maintenance stuff, not everybody has a water filter, but I touched on having a water filter. That's a similar, for me, it's every year I just go check, you know, and sometimes I do nothing because I'm just one person. He was like, if you have a family, you would definitely have to change it. But I'm one person, so like this little filter that has like some white stuff that slowly is being eaten out, I don't have to replace it always. Faucets and stuff, I'm honestly not sure what the maintenance is other than just some good old fashioned visual, you know, check underneath the sink, check for drips. You know, if there's a drip, you're going to get a moldy vanity or a moldy sink cabinet pretty quickly. It took like 2 weeks at my parents' house. Yeah, or maybe less. Yeah. And like, it was bad. Luckily, it was fresh enough that I could get that like spray remove mold stuff, and it like took it all away, and I scrubbed it all, and it was all good, and we fixed the leak. But it doesn't take long with very little drip.
Showers are bad too. Tubs.
Yeah.
Because you're running the water and not realizing if there's a leak, it's going behind. A lot of times behind it, or it's dripping, but you can't see it because you're taking a shower. You're not, because that did happen to me personally. Yeah. Couple houses back, and they found mold behind and I kept taking a shower. Then I noticed it, but it was too late. I was like, wonder why that's doing that. And no, did I call someone immediately? No, I waited. I didn't wait too long.
We're sharing our life experience. No one's judging you for not calling someone immediately.
But unfortunately, it was going behind the wall. So
where was the actual leak? Where the shower head meets the where the handle is.
Yeah, where I would turn it on. I always do this to turn it on. Then I get in and I don't look at that again. So I'm not knowing, and then I realized one day actually it just kept dripping.
From the handle.
Yes. And I was
that's
like,
bad.
That's coming from, it wasn't good.
Because no water's ever supposed to come out of there.
No.
It's supposed to go up to the head or down to the tub spout.
The whole thing had to, it was like a big thing. But you don't know because you're taking a shower, so.
Yeah, you would never notice because it's wet anyway.
Right. But unfortunately, those things happen to people that you don't realize it. Like, drips under sinks. Yeah. I don't look under my sink ever, barely. I mean, all my shelving is above, so there's no reason for me to go down there. And here,
so that's again where like
you just gotta open those just to check.
Yeah, but I mean that's again if you like. So for me, I have so much stuff that is of regular grab and use under all my sinks. Now that I think about it. So there's just a natural, like if I went there to grab the bottle of mouthwash in one sink, I'd be like, oh my God, it's black. Like what happened, Right. But if you want to live with your stuff not under there, which by the way, perfectly fine. Another great example of just every 3 months, put a calendar thing and hit recurring. It's very easy. Go down to recurring and hit every 3 months. Yeah. And put it for a time is not going to bother you, but you're home. Tuesday 8 p.m. You're not asleep yet, but like it's a Tuesday, you're probably not out, and just open the cabinet.
Right.
Like slide the extra TP or whatever might be there. Just be like, oh, okay, look, it's not black, it's not wet.
It's dry.
That's all you got to do. Like that's all we're talking about. You don't have to call somebody for that. No. That's just a visual inspection.
That's it.
Yeah.
I was just doing an inspection in a property, and I said, this place is immaculate. I mean, just immaculate. The tenant left it immaculate. So I opened up the bathroom sink, and they had a plastic drain cleaner. You ever see those? They're about 20 inches long.
Like for getting like hair out?
Yeah, for pulling hair out.
Yeah, I've seen one.
The little prongs. Yeah. I was looking at it. I said, I wonder if this thing works. I stuck it down the drain. I pulled out so much hair.
Oh man!
And now I'm like, oh no! Now the sink's dirty. I didn't have stuff tied and go clean it up. But I could not believe how well that device worked. To clean out the drains.
By the way, always that or plumber or take the U underneath. Don't ever use Drano.
I was just gonna say. Don't use. I was gonna say drain cleaner.
Don't use it.
Products.
Get a plumber. It's really bad for the pipes.
Bad for
and
pipes.
It will create a leak somewhere else that you can't get to.
Yeah.
It's not good. Yeah, it does work. I've been victim or not victim. Yeah. I've been like dumb enough to use that stuff, years ago.
I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, don't if you're caring at all about your home, you need
stay away from drain
products of any kind. And if you don't want to do all this stuff, you're going to need a person, and you need good people. Yeah. So again, your network is big, and you should be asking your realtor day one about, do you know a contractor? Do you know a handyman? Do you know a plumber? One good contractor could take care of all this stuff. Mm-hmm. One good handyman probably also.
Yes.
If you want to chop it up into individuals, that's your prerogative too. Yep. There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. As for other water maintenance stuff, your toilets, people, this is not my quote. I wish it was. But people sit on it every day. No one spins around and looks at the back and sees how it works. Frickin' familiarize yourself. There's like 5 parts in there, and they all work more or less the same. There's like a flapper, a chain, a rod, a plug. Like, figure it out. When the chain snaps, you should need nobody. You should go to Home Depot and buy a $4.50 chain. True. And clip the thing on. Like, you barely need tools for a lot of that stuff. Obviously, if something in the inner mechanics broke, go buy a new toilet. It's a couple $100. But like, for the most part, that flapper is just going to go bad, and they're $6.
Yeah,
that chain's going to break. They're $5. Like, and if you don't want to do what I just said and actually teach yourself, wait for it to break and then YouTube it. But it's not that hard.
No, it's common sense. The eye test is a pass the eye test. If you open it, take the lid off, and if you see the bolts are rusty, get them changed, because it's gonna be leaking soon, and it's usually gonna be when you're gone for the weekend.
Yeah, and that flapper is just made of rubber. It's gonna disintegrate over time. Think of our tires on our cars. Like, nothing lasts for eternity. So if you look at it day one when you buy your house or when you move in, whatever, if you're building or buying, whatever, day one to your new toilet, if you look at it and it's bright red, and then every year when you're checking the back of the toilet, one year it's a lot noticeably faded red, that's probably the move. Go buy the $5 flapper.
If I can add on to that, Corb, one of the things is when people get a high water bill. And that's the first thing we look at is the flapper, because that water is running continuous. Mm-hmm. And typically the city of Durham or wherever you are, if you send them an invoice from a plumber, they will adjust your water bill.
Yep. I had a tenant who asked me to just copy and paste something he wrote onto something with my stationery, because it was Google Fiber ran underneath one of the one you're selling on Ash, and they did something with the water pipe, and then like he got this huge bill for like 3 months, and he called the city, and the city was like, "Oh shit, we got to fix that," because it was like under the city sidewalk. Yes. So they fixed it, and then he just was like, "Hey, could you do this letter? They told me like that's how it works," and he got his money back. Like he got his water bill back.
That is good information.
Yeah. So the city likes to they like healthcare, they make it unnecessarily complicated, but if you know the channels, they'll help you. Yeah. And that's not going to be a visual leak, I should point out. Your toilet's just going to keep running. Right.
But you'll hear it.
I'm saying if you're not there.
Oh,
like it won't do water damage to your home. You're just going to keep filling up the toilet, and the flapper seal is going to fail, and it's going to drain, and then it's going to fill up, and it's going to drain, and then like next thing you know, 1 month you had like an insanely high bill.
Right.
But that's also a good sign that something happened in the crawl space. If you get a water bill that's insanely high, like go look in the crawl space for a busted pipe or a leaky pipe.
Yeah.
That's a good sign that there's a problem. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I don't think there's any visual thing you can do, or other than visual for like faucets and stuff. Other than my recommendation is get an in-house entire home water filter, because the stuff that will be filtered out of the water, it's an obvious and a given that it's better for you. Yes. But it's better for the life of all of your appliances. Because it's those like rocks and bits and sediment that will eventually break your dishwasher or washing machine or stop your just like bath faucet from working and require you to get a new faucet. So that's not in everybody's mind or in everybody's budget, but I would recommend it. Especially the in-house, because you feel the difference when you take a shower. That showering in the filtered water, your clothes feel different. Like when I say in-house, it's like from the city into the crawl space into the filter and then goes everywhere else. So the auto repeating water bowl for my dog, that's filtered. The washing machine for clothes, et cetera, et cetera.
So it's interesting. Where I live, we're on wells out.
So you probably have a bunch of filters.
And we do.
Yeah.
And but I didn't realize this till my neighbor had copper pipes and he had high calcium and it pitted right through the copper. And so really you need CVPC instead of copper if you have calcium.
Yeah. I mean, the world is pretty much going to PEX and PVC now.
Yeah.
Away. There's still use for copper, especially in any upfit and repair situation. But when we're talking new construction, as much as possible, they're using a lot of plastics at PEX, PVC.
Did he have a filter, though?
He didn't have a filter, but it was just over 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Everything works till it doesn't too.
Right.
Like you can do all the preventative you want, but like there's no such thing as lasts forever. 20 years is a great life. Also, think about the knowledge 20 years ago. PEX wasn't like as big. And I mean, hell, if it took 20 years, the knowledge of the plumber at that time was, from even longer ago. You know what I mean? So it takes a while for something new to be invented, then something to be torture tested, then all the new people who install it to start working and trusting it, you get an old school guy who's like, I want to use it just because I trust it. And it's like, no, use the newer tool. It takes half the time. And it's, that's definitely a thing for sure. Okay, so let's see. Moving away from water, the other maintenance stuff. Okay, so let's go to HVAC.
Can I jump back in on the water heater?
Absolutely.
So we just had a commercial property before we were managing it. The water heater went on the second floor, and it caused a couple $100,000 in damage.
Couple $100,000? Oh my goodness.
Let me repeat that. Couple $100,000 in damage.
Because it was on the second floor.
Second floor.
Wow.
And it was over the weekend, and it destroyed, it did massive damage.
So no one was in there.
Nobody was in there to report it. So it was massive damage. The owner went around and put in alarms that will shut off the water. If the water heater leaks, it's a device that will, there's two different ones. You could, on your HVAC system, you could put a device that will shut it down or set off an alarm.
Yeah.
And the water heaters, she put on a device that will actually shut the water off. So if it leaks into that pan, it'll shut it off right at the valve.
Yeah.
So there are devices out there.
There's a tremendous amount of, unfortunately, it's all money.
Yes.
It's all just costs more and more.
Yes.
From, what we would call the standard.
That's right.
But, especially your situation, if you have absolutely no choice but to put one of these water devices in a second story or a third story, think for 1 second, close your eyes and think about the dripping of all the layers of sheetrock, all the layers of flooring, carpet that might be there. That's all gone. All of it's gone.
Yep.
And then that's all what you see as a inexperienced homeowner who's never built. All of the structure that could rot. I mean, you have no idea the damage you're talking about. So think for 2 seconds, like, okay, maybe $1,000 should be put into the budget for a sensor.
Yeah. And if it's a second home or vacation home and you're not there for 2 months or 3 months, and you have the money, peace of mind.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. I know it's becoming more and more practice. Like it was not anything special, but that's on one of the HVAC units I have where the air handler is in the attic.
In the attic, yeah.
And every time I've had like the tenants call me like 2 times and they're like, hey, our AC just like stopped. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Call Mainer. And they go out And I always get a call from the tech guy, and he's like, well, this thing's like full of dust, and it's the sensor that like shuts it off on purpose, because like if we disconnect that sensor, like it'll keep going, and then like water will drip, and then you'll have like a big problem. And I'm like, okay, well, that sucks that like you had to come all the way out to like clean a little sensor, but I guess it's better than not having it. So, yeah, I didn't know that was a thing until literally that happened. Yeah. But it seems to be, at least for HVAC systems, I think already the norm.
Yeah, like you said, the condensation builds up, and there's a small drip pan that it goes into with a drain, and that drain gets clogged.
Yeah.
And
also, if you're put one of those pans underneath your clothes washer. They make one of those square plastic pans that you can just literally pick your washer up, slide this pan under it. It looks ugly, but who cares? Yeah. And when because that connection to the back is literally just two small garden hoses.
Yes. And
they break. They fail. It's a simple rubber washer.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a tiny little drip. And if you notice that pan's slowly full of water, get some new hoses. They're cheap. So that's another water related thing. It's just a rubber hose. It's just as nice as that like metal braided hose might look. At the inside, it's one rubber washer. That's all that's stopping the actual leak at the end of the day. So keep that in mind. That pan is a good thing. They're not expensive either. Okay, yeah, I think that covers all the water related stuff. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So the next big thing that I think of is HVAC.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing is you actually just have to hire an HVAC company they're going to tell you every year. I'm going to tell you every 2 years. Just come out and do what's called a service. And a service involves a good thorough check in areas that I don't understand because they're HVAC people. And an extremely deep cleaning of your unit outside, the air conditioning box, and just like a good once over.
Yeah.
Other than that, you should be replacing the filter in what's known as the air return. A lot of people don't know these like terminologies, but like in your ceiling or in your floor, there's 4-inch by 12-inch air ducts of some kind pumping out your AC, either in your floor up or in your ceiling down. And there's a giant single grate somewhere central to your house. It's either in a wall or a ceiling. Sometimes it's usually 20 by 20. That's like an average, a standard, but they can vary. And if you pop off that metal grate, which takes no tools, there's just two little things that you pull open, there's an air filter in there. There are tons of schools of thought on the air filter. I don't know what you guys have heard. I've had various sources. I've had HVAC professionals be like, you need to swap that every month. I've had Duke Energy specialists be like, you could go 3 months. I've had other people be like, it's 6 months. And then, depending on your pets, like there's all kinds of schools of thought on it. You can't check something too often in that particular regard. So I think I have it every month in my calendar to just look. And for a while, I had a reusable one. So I would take it out and go outside and hose it off and then put it on the back porch to dry and then just put it back up. In my rental properties with Braxton, I've started I just buy a 4-pack, leave it in the closet, and then I can tell my tenants, I don't care if you have dogs or not, put a thing in your calendar every 4 months for 4 times for the year you're here to swap this for me so I don't have to bother you.
I was going to say, with pets, I would do it more.
For sure.
30 days.
Yeah, and
30 days.
And majority of people have pets.
So, and if you have allergies, that probably affects your life also. Because if you have no pets but you have allergies, you're going to want to spend a couple extra dollars on some allergy reducing filters, and you're probably going to want to replace them more often. Yeah. So there's, I'm going to recommend you check it every 2 months, but how often you want to replace the stuff, every month, what'd you say, 30 days? That's every month. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to recommend
Every
you look at it every month. And if it's caked in dust and pet hair, throw that shit out.
Get it away.
Yeah. Buy a new one.
Yeah.
You know? I want your opinion on the duct cleaning. Because I see these ads on Instagram, like $69 gets your duct cleaned, and they put that little spy camera and they show like all this fake dust that they put in the commercial, and then they blow it off and it looks brand new. And have you had people do it? I have yet to do anything related to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So the inspectors are now checking the duct work, and if they see debris or anything in there, they're recommending that the ducts be cleaned. So
have you been involved with hiring a duct cleaner?
Yeah, the last one I did, it was about 2,000 square foot house.
Okay.
And it was a split level.
Okay.
And it cost $600 to have it done.
So that seems high, but also that's a lot of house.
To me it does, but the buyer had major allergies. So in the long run, it was helping her. Did it need to be done? I don't necessarily know for sure, but she had it done, peace of mind, okay, they've gotten everything out that the previous owner had or whatever.
Yeah.
But the inspectors are now really calling on that. So let's say you're not selling your house and you live there for 5 years, depending on pet hair, because that's another, that collects more than people think. And we always think about it being on our floors, on our carpet, but yeah, it gets inside those ducts. And so when the air is recirculating, you're not getting the cleanest air at that point. So these duct work people are actually, I think it's a good thing.
Have you done it on your home?
No. No. Okay. But when I go to get a new HVAC system, which is coming up because unfortunately I've had a few issues, I'll have them clean the ducts.
Oh, so you're going to keep your ducts and get a new box?
Well, he said they're in decent shape.
Okay, but you're going to have them clean them.
If they weren't in good shape, I'd have to.
Yeah. See, I know, unfortunately, that when my system craps out, my ducts are like drastically old and undersized. So I know it's going to be like rip and replace with all the new giant modern super.
Right.
And I think I even had my HVAC guy came over and he was like, "You should have another duct like in the floor over here." And I was like, "Oh, we're gonna have to like cut one." He's like, "Yeah, we definitely should cut one and put one over there." I was like, "Oh, really?" Like codes have changed a lot in, I don't know, 07 this house was built. You can do the math.
Yeah.
It's a lot of years. It's 10 plus. So it's codes change sometimes every year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I use a cheaper filter. I don't know if this is true or not, but the allergen filters are more expensive, but they're thicker. So your unit has to work harder to pull that air through it.
Right.
That's true.
It's a little more wear and tear on your unit and costs more money. So
that's why the Duke Energy guy was like, he told me to buy the crappiest, cheapest filters and swap them every month.
That's kind of what I do.
That's what you do.
That's what I do.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was told. I mean, it made sense to me.
But that's again, like the Duke Energy guy cares about like how much energy you're drawing.
Right.
And that's,
And we had people that had high, kind of like the high water bill. We had a high electric bill. They hadn't changed their filter in 2 years. It was
years.
It was like having a solid piece of plywood in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable.
I'll
really
be sitting at an inspection, and the inspector will say, "Didn't know if you wanted to see this," and it is just and that puts wear and tear. Yes. It really does. Like if you're going to spend that much money on a HVAC system, keep it up, keep it to where it could live a lot longer.
And there's no way, that's the funny thing is you mentioned, like, if you're going to spend that much money, there's no way that anybody who spent that money would have problem with the extra money for filters. It's just that nobody thinks about it.
Yeah.
The HVAC guy doesn't go, okay, here's your thermostat. What would you like it set at? By the way, you got to change the filter every 6 months or whatever.
Right.
I've never heard the HVAC guy say that. And to be honest, they want it to break, so you got to hire them to fix it.
Well, probably.
So,
but
no, not probably. 100%. And that's not even like they're evil. I'm just saying, like, it behooves them to not mention that, and it behooves them that it breaks, and then who are you going to call? The Ghostbusters. Right. Then they're the Ghostbusters. So, like, I mean, I'm just saying, but, like, as the, we're more knowledgeable than that. So we know, okay, like you do it every 30 days. That's amazing. I don't even do it that often. That is amazing.
I don't do it that often.
I absolutely do it every 30 days.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't do it that often.
I'm so thankful, though, that my filter is so convenient in the hallway.
That makes a difference.
Yep.
I've had houses where they're
Mine's
up in
up.
the ceiling, and that's a little trickier and a little more inconvenient.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Mine's definitely up there, and it's annoying, even for me, and I'm tall.
Get a step ladder. Get a good, safe ladder.
Yep.
There's painter's ladders, and then there's a step ladder with a wide platform.
I've got one with 3 steps. I love
3
it.
steps. That's
perfect.
That's all you need.
That's a perfect ladder for a home.
For like light bulbs and
Yes.
filters
Yes.
and dust in the corners.
That is something everyone should have.
Yes.
I've learned to really like my 3-stepper.
Yes.
So.
That would definitely be on the list. That would most people wouldn't think of, but that would be on the list of like the bare essential tools that you should have.
Yes.
With your hammer, your drill, and your screwdrivers. Like you need a small step ladder.
Yeah.
Totally. Yep. You can't be hiring somebody to change light bulbs. Like come on, or standing on like a swivel office chair, you break your neck.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
All right. So HVAC. Okay. Summarize. Clean it. Get it serviced. Change your filters.
Check your batteries and your thermostat.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, they're hardwired.
Some are, some aren't.
Yeah. Oh, mine's hardwired. I didn't know they were battery.
Well, we have ones.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it a backup battery if the power goes out, or it's just not wired? Because I think they're all wired.
A lot of times, people will say first thing, check your batteries.
Huh.
Just check it.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I did not know that.
And that may be an older system.
Speaking of that, though, check in older houses for your smoke alarms.
Oh, yeah,
your
smoke
batteries.
alarms.
Make sure those
Yeah.
things are actually working.
So that's a great segue into everything
Yes.
electrical.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So the first thing, as mentioned, smoke and carbon monoxide.
Yep.
Yes.
I should also just tell people, like, you're going to have them beep, beep, beep. It's much more time in between beeps. It's going to take you forever to find out which one it is. It's going to drive you nuts.
Yeah.
You're going to think it's part of the TV. This happens to everybody. And then I'm going to tell you that you're going to finally figure it out, and you're going to replace the battery, and it's still going to do it. They have a life.
Yes.
And you just have to take it off and go buy a new one from
Yep.
Home Depot. So just
That's
like
it.
FYI, like, that's a thing. If you look up, that one's missing for that very reason. Like, I just haven't bought it. Yeah. They also need to be cleaned.
Yeah.
They also need to be cleaned with a very, like, thin attachment from your vacuum.
The
Just
smoke alarms?
Yeah, get the dust out of there. Because a lot of times they go off from dust and not from smoke. And nothing's more annoying than I'm not doing anything. I'm not cooking. What's going on? And it just goes off.
So quick segue from that is one of the most common causes of house fires. What do you think it is?
Electrical.
But what do you think
Spiders.
causes it? No, electrical. But what do you think causes it?
Causes it?
Yeah. What device in the house?
Toaster.
Nope.
What device in the house causes most
Hairdryer.
house fires? See, I was going to think like candles and incense, but that's
Bathroom ceiling, the bathroom vent fan.
Oh.
So
left on.
the moisture in the bathroom, the wires over time will get rusty.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
people turn it on and leave, and the vibration and whatnot, and it'll cause a fire.
Oh, wow.
Yep, that's a
Good to know.
Whoa.
I
It
didn't
is.
know that one.
Yeah. So don't leave your bath fan on all day.
change
Right.
it, change it,
And change it.
or
Change
don't leave
it.
it on. Yeah,
Well, both probably.
both.
So mine are original, so you don't have to change them that often. Let's be clear.
No, no.
But you know.
But if you have a 20-year-old fan, just
Yeah,
check and see
a
if
20-year-old fan.
30-year-old
Right.
fan, and make sure it's not.
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Rusty.
But yeah,
or-
also don't leave it on all day.
And don't leave it on.
Yeah.
Don't-
Keep that
don't-
on while you're
yeah.
showering,
Yeah.
and then 10 minutes after, turn it off or whatever.
Thank goodness it's an annoying noise, so most people aren't
Yeah.
going to leave it on.
Yeah. It's not for me. It's like light and fan on, light and fan off.
I
normally.
could see a kid leaving it on though. I could.
Right. And it's just not something you think of.
You don't. Right.
It's all hidden.
No,
it's
you
up
don't
at the
think of it
ceiling.
at all.
It's hidden.
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
think of it.
And now they do the very soft fans. You
Right.
can barely hear it.
Everything's quieter now.
Very quiet. Yeah.
And the new ones are probably a little safer.
I'm
Well,
sure,
true,
but you're
yeah,
also talking.
probably.
What you're talking about is simply the wire connections, which are the same wires these days. Like the fan got better, the wire didn't really change. Still a little bit of copper
And
wrapped
you're
in
still
some
going to
plastic.
have steam. You're still going to have moisture in your bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good.
That's a good.
Something great.
I'm not really sure what the preventative is on that. Like, I guess pop that cover off every 3 years and look for rust.
Yeah, or if you hear if it's rattling.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a given for anything. If it sounds off, check it.
Yeah.
But it could sound perfectly fine, and the wire connections could be rusting.
Right.
But if you pop that little white cover off and just look at the guts, you'll see a little plastic fan and a little motor and the wire connections. And if you see those bare wires have any signs of rust, that's a good sign to just go buy a $45 fan. And guess what? You don't even need somebody to do that. Turn the breaker off, pop that thing out, green to green, white, black to black, white to white.
That's right.
A couple of set screws, and they come with instructions. It's easier than installing a fan or a light fixture. It's almost the same thing. So, but again, call me, call Stacy. She'll give you an electrician. Call me, I'll give you an electrician. Or Google an electrician. Or a handyman, but or YouTube it.
There's
if you're
a bunch
brave.
of them out there.
There's tons of options before you just like freak out as a listening homeowner and go, everything in my house is trying to kill me. Like, no, it's not true. So electrical maintenance stuff. Most everything I can think of is just like you should be cleaning your house, which involves also, making sure your outlets aren't covered with dust and debris, and make sure all of your electronic stuff. Don't pretend you don't know there's an air vent behind all of your stuff. It's there for a reason, Also, just like regularly cleaning the back of stuff, even down to something as silly as like the crumb tray in the bottom of your toaster, just regularly taking that out. A lot of people don't even know toasters have those, but like, get that out of there. Pull your stove out every once in a while. Sweep up all the dust bunnies and all the grease. There's going to be oil and grease back there, whether you're clean or not. It's going to be there. And, if it was a professional kitchen, Gordon Ramsay would rip you a new a-hole because he'd be like, that's a fire hazard. Oh, bloody, bloody England. And like, but that's in your house. Roll your fridge out. There's some cobwebs back there.
Biggest hazard, dryer vents.
Make
sure
dryer
that
vents.
you've got those dryer vents. The lint is out.
Yeah, so that's
a
a mistake of mine. That should have been in the HVAC section of this conversation. If you're a homeowner, you should have a drill. And if you want to go buy this kit, it's like a bunch of rods that screw together with a brush on the end. You can do it yourself. If you don't want to, though, the same HVAC person who's going to come service your HVAC unit, your air handler in your home and the unit outside, they can clean that thing. It's like $100 for them to clean it for you. Do it. If you're, one person, maybe every couple of years. If you're like a big family, you should probably do it every year.
Exactly.
It kind of depends on your lifestyle and how
yeah.
much you use your laundry.
Yep.
If you're doing a lot of freaking laundry, if you're right.
Some people do.
Yeah, if you're volunteering to clean the team, the school's basketball team jerseys, like you might want to get that checked every year.
Right.
That's a big fire hazard. Lot of lint.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, empty the lint filter in your dryer that you can just empty every load. My sister, God bless her, she was like, why does my dryer take 3 cycles to dry? And there was like a pillow in there. There was like a whole quilt's worth of, I was like,
that's funny.
I was like, did you know this? She's like, I didn't know that was there. I didn't know that was a compartment.
So I'm not going to lie. I always pull it out. I take the lint, which is usually a lot. Yeah. So a pillow is,
No, it wasn't like a real pillow, but it was just like a lot.
I know.
Yeah.
I unscrewed the bottom part of where the lint thing is. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's full.
It's full, and here I am taking it out every time and doing it, but all that extra lint is hanging out down there. I had no idea.
Do you have a brush? Do you have a brush to stick down in there?
Oh, I was doing all kinds of MacGyver stuff to try to get.
You need
down
that little
there.
like Dyson
pull
handheld battery.
It up and,
that hair thing you were talking about, that would work well.
Right.
So
some pipe cleaners or whatever.
I had a back scratcher that was by my it was sitting on the cabinet, and I'm like, it was long enough, and I would pull it to the side, and I'm like, I can't believe how much is coming out of here, because every usage I pull the lint, but there was a lot down there. So check that part too every now and then. Because it's down there, and I didn't realize it.
Yeah, I would say the longest you would want to go is probably like 3 years. And again, if you're what I would call like the typical American standard family of like 2 parents and 2 to 3 kids, you'd probably want to check it every year. It's a lot. It's a lot of laundry. It's a lot of lint. It adds up quick.
Yep, it does. Yeah.
And also, like, you might not know, if you didn't build your house, you would probably have no idea. But like, the dryer vent exits the side of your house somewhere, and depending on how long that run is, it's just more lint that's in there.
Yep.
And the more and more and more, like, I did it to my house once a couple of years ago, and it was like, I could have filled like a bed for my dog with all of the lint that was in there.
Wow.
And granted, like, it was probably mostly the previous homeowners.
Yeah.
But still.
And sometimes when the dryer's on the second floor, we'll get water leaks in the ceiling. Mm-hmm. That lint is built up so much the condensation will leak out. Yeah. And it's not a plumbing leak. It's coming from the
I've
lint
seen
in the
that
dryer.
at houses. Yeah.
That's another sign that we should mention, because it happened to one of my rentals where we have the air vents, like here they're in the floor, like right there, but sometimes they're in the ceiling. Yep. And we noticed a leak right at the corner of the air vent, or some water staining right at the corner of the air vent. So I was immediately like, that's a convenient roof leak to be dripping right there. Got my roofer. He was like, bone dry, dude. Not an issue. Get the HVAC, and they're like, the duct to the grate wasn't like sealed with that liquid stuff perfectly, and the filter was like completely caked over. Yep. And these they're like 2 roommates, but they each have a dog. So I was like, here, on my dime, here's 4 filters as friends, because they are. I was like, put in your calendar every 3 months to change that out. And they were like, no problem. We're more than happy to do that. Yeah. But like, that could lead to some serious drywall issues. And like, damage comes quick.
Water.
Very little. Water. Yeah, it's a little condensation. It's a tiny little bit of condensation.
That's all it is.
Because the system was working too hard through that filter, just like you were talking about. Yep. And they have pets, once again, and then, most likely that could have been like the filter that was in there from construction, covered with sawdust. Yep. Mm-hmm. Already useless for the first time somebody sanded something, because that's how that happens. Yep. So back to electrical. It's really, cleaning stuff. As for, I don't know if there's really what I would say any safe electrical maintenance you can do. You can visually look at your electrical panel, and at one point it will become outdated, and you will need an electrician to completely remove it and completely redo it. That's like a could take 20 years thing. Or if you need more juice, like an extension. If you're like, we want to double the size of the house, there's not enough room to add the breakers, then that's the time to upgrade or do a sub panel. Everything's circumstantial. But I don't know if I could safely recommend a lot of electrical maintenance other than just your exterior outlet covers. Make sure they're not cracked. The sealant, check that when you're checking your windows and your siding. If you have the type of siding and exterior boxes, you every couple of years walk out there with a caulk gun and reseal all that stuff with some silicone.
Right.
But short of that, look for something that's broken and replace it, and make sure everything's clean and not obstructed. You don't want a bunch of outlets, especially if you have a power strip with a bunch of stuff just behind a cabinet collecting dust. Like, take 5 minutes with some zip ties and make that stuff beautiful, and then dust it every once in a while. Dust the back of your TV. It'll last longer. Literally, like, it will last longer. There's air vents because the stuff heats up. If you clear it of dust, it will breathe better and it will last longer. Like, this is not rocket science, but just like, there's not some of this is very like duh, but some people just need to be reminded.
But you just have to do it.
You just have to do it. Yeah.
Electrical is also just more education that how the breakers and GFI. So somebody's using a hair dryer and it trips.
Yeah, that's less maintenance, but that is a good piece of elaborate a little bit for listeners.
Yeah, we'll get people calling and say outlet's not working.
Yeah,
and they may not know how to reset. The breaker switch or GFI that pops, and you just have to go press the button, the reset button.
And so for listeners, like the GFI is put in wet areas, bathroom sinks, kitchen, maybe a laundry room. Yep. And rather than, before they existed, it wouldn't take a lot of water to come in contact with an outlet, and like your entire house could just fry. Like, it could be really, really messed up to the point where, you have to replace an entire electrical panel or a circuit, then it got a little bit smarter and a little bit smarter. And now we're at a very smart level where a little bit of moisture and that just that one outlet will trip. And by trip, we mean it's either pulling too much juice from a hairdryer, like you mentioned, or there's some moisture that hit it. And if you've ever seen, your regular outlet just looks like two holes. But then there's outlets that 2 holes, and then there's 2 buttons in the middle. That's a GFCI. And those buttons are the reset. And most of the time, it tripped on purpose to save further catastrophe. Yep. Like, it's not just an inconvenience for you getting ready or you splashing it with water or whatever. It's because something inappropriate, like too much juice needed, pulled, whatever, or too much moisture, and we got a problem. And our only way to solve this is just like shut down, prevent catastrophe. Now, some outlets have the buttons there. Some outlets have no buttons, and then they're wired to a special GFCI breaker. And the breaker's in, like, electrical breaker. If you don't know what that is, it's like where all, the electrical brain of your house.
Gray metal box with
metal box
behind switches
behind a painting, maybe. Ugly. Wish it wasn't there, but it is. Definitely not in a bathroom because they can't do it via moisture.
But with the electrical panel, a lot of times they're not labeled. So that's the best thing a homeowner could do is label what it goes to. Especially if you're working on replacing a fan or something, you want to make sure you hit the right breaker.
Yes.
And power's off. And so just a nice label.
That's a huge move for new construction as well.
Yes.
Label that stuff. Yep. I go through for my tenant houses, and I have a label maker for the light switches even.
Yes.
Just because, like, you have a bank of 5.
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah.
Like, it just makes it a little bit easier. It just helps a little bit easier. Yeah. And then I don't do this, but I've seen it. And if you want to be this OCD, it's amazing and it will help you one day. But I saw that some people will take off the light switch, the plate cover, the white plate cover. Well, most of the time they're white. You can get them in whatever, but the plate cover. And then on the inside of that, they will write with Sharpie, like, this is breaker 16. This is paint. This is paint color olive 7. This is living room. This is living room cover. Like, they'll just put all this information in Sharpie.
Did not know that
on the inside of the plate cover where nobody can see it until you take it off, and it's like it takes a lot of legwork, but the simplification of that one day, like when you scratch that wall and you're like, oh man, what's that paint color? You just like pop it up. Oh, it's olive 7.
Right.
Boom. Go get go get a can of olive 7, barcode 642 or whatever. I have a binder that has a picture of my house on the front and everything from improvements I've made to who I've hired to, the first thing I did 10 years ago, when I put the fence in, to the paint colors, the swatches on the back living room. You know, I'm that guy though. So like, I would also recommend that. That's a great thing to have if you don't want to have a binder. Digitize it somewhere.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
But that's a big thing. You know, you keep things like your survey in there because that's the first thing you're going to need if you do any sort of expansion, because you're going to be getting closer to a boundary at some level. Even if it's a mile away, they're still going to want a survey because building departments stink. So yeah, that's good. Just like home knowledge and maintenance for sure. Like keep your records, keep it organized. And then, I mean, everything else that I can think that is, you know, using the word maintain lightly, is just like, you got to keep stuff clean and not damaged, you know, like you maintain your walls by keeping them free of, you know, stains and cobwebs, and you maintain your floors by keeping them clean and not scratching them. And
pest control is another big one.
Pest control.
Maintaining your house. I mean,
yeah, that's a big one. So there's a lot of different ways to go about that. There's some stuff you can get, some like mail order things. You can buy a little sprayer bottle. You can just hire companies like Terminex. You know, the better sealed your house is, the better that's going to be.
Yep.
So, you know, nothing is like flawless, but if you have a lot of pests, it's not always necessarily the need of chemicals. Like, where are they coming from? How are they getting in there? You know, is there silicone in the pipe where the HVAC wires go through the crawl space? That's a big one that they forget. That's a big one. And it doesn't seem like a big hole. It's not enough for like a water concern, but it's for like spiders and crickets and stuff. It's like, it's a highway. You know? And that comes to your walk around as well. You know, if you're walking around every year on that exterior walk around in your calendar, you know, literally with a caulk gun full of clear silicone, and you just, you know, you see an outlet that like, oh, that's cracked, put a bead over it. You see a windowsill, oh, that peeled off, peel the rest of it off, put some new on it. You know, you notice that some wire is drilled through from the cable company, and the wire's through a piece of PVC, but the wire has room inside the piece of PVC. Fill that shit up with silicone.
So for those of you that are like me, a great handyman is perfect once a year to go through.
Give them the list.
It's inexpensive, and it is going to save you money down the road. That's what I say to that. Because I'm not going to be that person to go around. But I do sit on my deck, and I look at things, and I see things that I feel like, oh, that probably needs to be fixed, or that needs to be. I call someone.
But now you can be, you can just, you know, you can just like up your game a little bit. Like, you don't have to do any of this stuff, but now you could just open your calendar, like and after this podcast, to be like, you know what, maybe I should mark that like I do the gutters every 6 months rather than waiting till I notice they've overflowed, because like that's a couple weeks after they should have been done, you know. Or like if I had a calendared pressure wash, it would never get a whole shaded side of home algae buildup. Like me, the short side you guys have never seen to the left of the driveway, it's like green, and my house is tan. But it's just like there's trees there and shade there, and like it's just the perfect storm of algae growth. And like, you know, it has to be pressure washed, so it's like every couple of years you got to take care of it.
But this to have a podcast or everything that's out there now on Google and everything. Before I was a real estate agent, I didn't know that gutters being filled are messing with your roof. I didn't know that.
And your walls.
How in the world? So
because the water has to go somewhere.
Exactly.
And also I say think about, like everybody should know, that's just my brain. The way your gutters are attached, they're basically sitting in a metal hook every, 16 inches or so. Right. And that metal hook is screwed to your fascia board, your trim. And that's just trim, yo. Yeah. It's like with finish nails. So if you have a gutter that is clogged, if you don't know, water's really heavy. Try going hiking with all your water on your back. It's really heavy. So if you have a whole gutter clogged and therefore full of water, that's a lot of strain on, we'll get technical, the fasteners, and they're going to fail. AKA the screws are going to snap, or you're going to rip the board right out of your house.
Right.
Like it's going to rip off the side, and you're going to see the exposed edges of, your roof rafters. So like it all is connected somehow. Yeah. And it's going to mess with your wall. It's going to cause wood rot, roof problems.
Yeah.
If you're in a really cold climate and that water's there, you're going to get what's called ice dams, where the moisture like goes under the shingles a little bit and then freezes and then expands and causes pops. Like you got to take care of your gutters. It's more important than people think. Yeah.
Let's do one more thing outside of a house. If you are on well and septic, maintenance. You should have your septic checked, depending on the size of your family.
We completely skipped that. Great call.
It's a big one.
Yeah,
it's
the
a big
septic.
one. But have that. And I have been told you're not supposed to put stuff down in the toilets. But like Rid-X, I heard that's not. There are things you're supposed to put and things you're not. But I
yeast is Rid-X is. If you just go into Costco and get a huge thing of yeast and flush it down there, that's
supposed to help.
It's you just want bacteria in there to break that stuff down.
Yes, you want the bacteria. Yeah. That's right. That is right. Yeah. So
but then at some point you have to get it pumped.
You have to get it pumped.
A couple years.
Yeah. If it was like you and you lived here by yourself, probably 3 years.
Okay.
If there's a family of 4, I'd say 2 years just to make sure.
Because those Roost Street houses, believe it or not, they get water from the city, but they go out to septic. There's tanks in the backyard. So like I should pump. There's like 2 people in each house. I should pump those every 2, 3 years.
Yeah, or they're
you
going to.
just said 5.
I mean,
I have 5 people in my house. I had not had my septic tank pumped in probably almost 15 years.
So educate me. Is it is it gonna like back up? Is the toilet not gonna flush? Is poop gonna come out of the toilet?
So there was so much toilet paper.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So there's 2 tanks. There's one where the solids go into, and then it flows over to another tank with the liquid.
Okay.
And so over time the bacteria breaks down the toilet paper and all the solids. And then it becomes liquid and flows over into your next one. Then it goes out into the drain field. So it just all depends. I mean, a really good system will, if it's big enough, then you can go a long time without having it.
Yeah, I mean, it got sized for the house based on the size of the house, not how many people were living there. So,
but
when you have a teenager that uses a roll of paper every time he goes to bed.
Well, why haven't you guys done it in 15 years?
Didn't think about it.
It
wasn't on his calendar.
No. Again, I was. Somebody gave me this advice. They said, "Well, when you clean it out, you're taking all the bacteria out." So it was working. There was no.
So my septic guy told me, don't pump it out if you're going to inspect it. Because that's how so many inspectors say pump it out. You got to pump it out. But then you have an empty tank.
Right.
How do you know if it's leaking?
That's right.
Because there's nothing in it. He says, do that, then we do the test. If it's coming down, you've got a leak in your tank. So there's a lot of different things, but I've had people 30 years, they haven't pumped their tank, which is amazing to me. I get mine done because I just feel better that it's cleaned out and it's good because I'm on septic.
How often do you do it?
Well, I've been there 4 years. I've had it pumped twice now.
Twice in 4 years?
In 4 years.
I got to say, I know nothing. That seems overkill.
It's not super expensive. If it was expensive, I'd probably think twice.
Well,
I'd probably wait.
Me.
I think he charged me. No, I think he was like $225.
Yeah.
I mean,
$225, just like with a huge truck, and they just like a giant vacuum, like they're cleaning a porta-john.
And they just come and they pump it. Yeah,
suck it out.
I think the second time I did was
When they went the second time, were they like, "This is pretty empty"?
Yeah, they said it was fine, but
okay,
I had an odor. I could smell something. That's what made me do it again. And he said, no matter what kind of tank you have, you are always gonna like maybe get, if the wind hits it just right. He said, but there's nothing wrong with your tank. But don't not do something. I would pump it like at least every 4 to 5 years.
Or at least get them
Regardless.
out there to look. Yeah. Be like, hey, look, if you want to throw in some yeast or like pump half or at least, like kind of like the HVAC. It's like, I don't know what I'm looking at with the HVAC unit, but I know I want a professional to come look at it and clean it and like check it.
And even if you're surrounded by trees, definitely.
Oh yeah, because the roots
could come into it.
Yeah.
But that's your biggest thing. Well, check your well. You don't have to check the well itself. Check from your faucet. You can do this on your own. You can get a tester from Lowe's or Home Depot.
Yeah, they're free.
Yeah, and you can send it to the lab and make sure you don't have bacteria, because that is the number one thing that well people have is bacteria in their water.
Yeah. And then also, like, most of the, like, I almost got scammed by a company that was going to sell me like a worse water filter than I have for much more money. And now I have Bob Potts, who's been on my podcast. He like gave me a great home system for the appropriate amount of money. But like those people will come and do a water test for you for free in front of you because they think they're going to scare you enough into getting it, but to buying a system on the spot. Yeah. And I've had them come out like twice before I knew what was up, just because they were like, if you let us come out, we'll give you like a free like $100 gift card or some, like, you know, here's a free bottle of some cleaning product. And I'm like, I'll stare at you for 40 minutes and not buy your filter. And two times I had them come out and like halfway through their spiel, when they were really like laying it on dumb and thick, I was like, I got to tell you right now, I'm a general contractor. I know what you're saying. Like, you don't have to talk to me this dumb. And they were like, oh, and then the tone changed, and they were like, yeah, it's like $4,500. And I was like, get out of my house. Yeah.
That's
I was like, what?
ridiculous.
I got mine for like $1,800. It was like way bigger, way better. Like, you should see in the cross. It's like this massive tank and 3 other tanks. It's fantastic. I could feel the difference the next day. Yeah.
Are you on well or city?
I'm on
You're
city.
On city.
So granted, anybody on a well would need a lot more than I've got. Like, let's be clear. If the well water just naturally has more crap in it, and you got to filter that correctly. Honestly, for your body, but for your house, that's, believe it or not, my buddy Jeremy was telling me that, like, that's the main thing that like broke his first faucet, and his house is only like 4 years old. He was like, the crud that built up inside that faucet, that like when one of his like 4 filters in a row went down, it was just like so noticeable. Wow. Yeah.
Is it iron? I know that I'll go in the house.
It's all kinds of
I think it's iron and calcium.
Calcium's
that
bad.
Shows it in the toilets and the sinks.
The white stuff building up on your shower head, that's calcium buildup.
Greenish, white,
Green, if you let it get green, you need to clean your house more. Let's be real clear. Like, it takes a week for it to become white. But the red rings in your toilet, those are iron. And that's what I had mostly. And Bob knew immediately. He was like, I've done hundreds of water filters in the city. He's like, you all get the same city water. He's like, I know exactly what's going on. You know, and so. And then he's also was like adding some good chemicals into my water, maybe fluoride or something like that. Yeah, I can't exactly remember, but like I could tell you, like, okay, drinking it, not a lot of notice, but the shower, that was like the first shower after the filter. I was like, oh, like my skin after when I dried off, I was like, oh, I feel cleaner. Like, I literally felt like my skin, I was like rubbing my shoulders like this, and I was like, oh my God, this is like just nicer. Yeah. So that was and then I started to just think about like, oh my God, all my clothes are going to be better and like washed and better. And like my dog drinking the water, I drink the water straight out of the sink because I don't like it super cold, but that's just me. And now I just like, I don't even think about it because it's all filtered. It's just, but if you're on a well, to circle back, the well, just a lot more filters, a lot more junk, and you're probably going to have to also add chemicals.
You have a filter on the well. You can get one on the well, and then you can get a UV filter, which those are the most expensive but the most powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to kill everything. So yeah.
And then like if you're building a new construction, it's my recommendation that you do a utility room, and you should just have your filter bank right there because you're going to need to monitor it, and you're going to need to change filters regularly.
and have a drain put in.
Absolutely.
That's true too. That's true.
I don't know why that's not done. I mean, you should have everything in your utility room with a drain.
Yeah.
It just right down.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm designing a house that's going to be slab on grade.
Yep.
And I'm putting drains in all the bathrooms, the washer and dryer room, and the utility room, and the kitchen. Like, even if it's hidden under the island. Because it's one of those things where, like, as you said, like, it could pop in while I'm away on vacation. And, like, if I don't have a drain, all the trim is gone, all the cabinets are gone, the sheetrock will absorb the water up. The water may only be 6 inches tall, but that 8 feet tall of sheetrock, it'll absorb and absorb and absorb and absorb. So this shit's like a sponge.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if I've got floor drains, the worst that can happen is my well pump just goes.
Right.
And I have one high utility bill. And I get home to, a millimeter of water. And like, okay, I didn't lose anything. It cost me like $50, that one bill. And then I solved the problem, shut it off, fix it.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about how to design my house to age in place. And as somebody who just like manages risk of homes for a living, basically. And I'm like, what's the way to have the least stuff break and the easiest way to notice and the quickest way to fix and like all that kind of stuff. So I got a utility room bigger than like some bathrooms because like I'm planning for, some Tesla wall batteries. I want to put the air handler in there. I want it inside the envelope. And like, you can put your tankless gas hot water heater inside the envelope. You just have to vent it out. Yep. So it's on an exterior wall so that I can just vent the hot water heater out real quick. So I'm trying to really like make it super efficient. Nice. Just have everything inside it. Mm-hmm. But that's the dream. Okay. So
another thing with water, as we get to water, is you can do reducer valves. So the pressure's real high in like townhomes and stuff.
Right. Yep.
So they can put a reducer valve so it doesn't blow your pipes out. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. But also knowing where your shutoff is.
Yeah, you should know where it is.
Yeah.
That's a key. So if there's a leak somewhere, you want to hit that main shutoff.
And also, if you buy a house and the shutoff valve is in the crawl space, spend $300 and have one put in the home.
Upstairs, yeah.
That's so dumb because most crawl spaces have a padlock.
Yes.
And when, a pipe literally cracks open and you have like gushing water and you don't know where that key, like we have them put like noticeably under the sink and like the whole house shut off, not just that sink. Mm-hmm. And like my plumber, he likes to add shutoffs when I don't even tell him to. Tommy, you know Tommy. You both know Tommy.
We know Tommy.
But like, so I'll give you an example of how Tommy's mind works. If let's say your shower, that like you were talking about how the mixer, the handle. Yeah. It's called a mixer in plumbing terms. Then it goes up to the shower head. All that had to be redone because it was all just right. So obviously I don't know what your house looked like, but the back side of that wall, let's just say it was a hallway or a bedroom on the other side of that wall. Mm-hmm. Tommy will immediately cut that open and put like a fake air return vent so that you could open that and get to the plumbing. Yeah. And then he'll put a shutoff valve there just for that particular shower. Yeah. He throws them all over the place.
Yeah. But that's good.
No, it's fantastic until he charges you for them when you didn't ask for it.
Well, okay, true.
It's going to save you down the line.
It is going to save you down the line.
It is, yeah.
And that's less of a maintenance thing and more of just like an advice thing if you're building new homes. Like having a false vent or some sort of panel to get to the back of a lot of plumbing stuff where there's a shutoff there. No, is it pretty? Of course not. But
you gotta have
put it at painting height and put a painting over it. Right. But like, it's worth it. It is worth it because when that eventually breaks, there is no other option. You're gonna have to cut into the wall. So you cut into it later. You can cut into it in the beginning and just have like get some cool looking vents or figure out a way to just do like a false panel or a mirror or something. Like I remember for the longest time, my dad had these like this is before Apple TVs and everything was super small and you just basically hung a smart TV on the wall. My dad had like this huge rack of AV audio equipment and stuff in one room that fed 3 different TVs. So there were like 3 direct TV boxes and the disc changer, all this stuff. But to get to the back of it, I had no idea for the longest time. And it turned out that like this huge mirror just came off, and then the wall was like cedar side, and there were just like 2 screws holding this panel. You just like popped this panel off, and it was just the glory, all of it. And I was like, oh, the simplicity of that thought of like how you would have to work on that otherwise, of like having to pull boxes out to get like and reach in. I was like, oh, so simple. Yeah. But those are things that, again, like nobody really cares as much about the guts of your home. Like, I mean, we have literally a realtor here. No one cares about that. No one gets excited about
lots of
how
deferred
it works.
maintenance. Yeah, and you're right. And a lot of people don't know. They didn't learn when they first bought the house. You also learn as you live in the house, though, too.
Yeah. But like I'm saying, like like when you tore someone a house, like nobody's like, ooh, beautiful tankless water heater. Like no one cares. They're like, oh, look at this freaking bathroom. Look at this kitchen. Look at these hardwoods. Like I love this, or I hate this paint color. Like look at this yard. Like no one cares about the stuff that's actually going to keep you comfortable, because that's what actually keeps you comfortable. Like,
right.
How well your electric works, how well your hot water heater. Like the box is almost the minimal, the minimal side of everything else that's working for you.
Right.
Do you have a lot of homes you sell with sprinkler systems?
Not a lot.
Not a lot?
No, a lot of them now don't work. They've, they're old. Now they're just not functioning, and people don't spend the money like they used to.
It's law in New York now. Residential.
Is it that they have to have sprinklers? Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Well, you mean fire sprinkler, interior sprinklers. Yeah. I was thinking yard sprinklers.
Excuse me. You mean like to water plants?
To water your yard.
We're on different levels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking because you have to have backflow tests on them, and if you don't winterize them, then
and that's
destroyed.
where a lot of them have broke.
Coming back to maintenance.
Yeah.
I've never seen them work, A, the way they're designed, and B, for more than like 3 years. I've never seen it work out.
Yeah, it's always something.
I've never seen it work out.
A lot of times they just pull them, we're done, and they don't have them, or they say, as is, not working. So if you're very serious about your yard, then but it's not a common.
If you're serious about your yard, you need just call Marco at Lena Landscaping.
Yeah.
I should have said irrigation, not sprinkler.
Irrigation.
Well, no, you're good. Sprinklers good.
Sprinklers.
No, see, my head I was thinking of sprinklers like for fire.
Sure. Yeah.
And in New York, just because we know I'm from there and I know builders there, it is now law that all new construction residential homes must have sprinkler systems. Which is
in
crazy.
your house?
In your house.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what if there was like a
false alarm?
Yes.
I'd be pissed.
So when I worked at Cheers, this is back in 1999.
Did everybody know your name? Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Good.
Don't hate me.
That's okay.
I had to.
That's okay. That's good. That's good.
I love that you have that history. That's awesome.
I had the curly hair and I was thinner, so I got Woody.
Done. Got it.
I was Woody.
Done.
All right.
Woody.
We're throwing a party theme.
Yeah, but we had to install sprinkler system in that building that was built in the 1800s.
But that's a commercial building.
Commercial building, but they had to go through this building. It was an old beautiful building.
And 1800.
And they had to put in sprinklers.
So it was probably all like a stone, a stone, almost like it looked like a castle. Bricks.
Yeah. But I mean,
so they just had a core drill and hang pipes all on the wall, because you can't hide that. There's no hollow walls.
Like wood, decorative wood seal. I mean, it was just incredible. But they did an amazing job.
Yeah.
But they had to come in and put in sprinkler systems.
I mean, it's a common retrofit. I mean, to go anywhere in Durham. I mean, those,
but in your own house, like that's crazy.
New York code, and it's recent. That's obviously not NC code. It is for commercial, I'm pretty sure.
Because a lot of
that sounds like a union job.
but if you burn something in your house and you the smoke's there, it set the alarm off. I mean, if water just started coming down,
maybe there's a different level. Maybe like the fire alarm has. I don't know. Let's be clear.
Like real fire.
But maybe there's levels. Like smoke doesn't set off the sprinklers, but fire does.
Yeah.
Like maybe the detector.
I could handle that.
Can detect different stuff. You know,
temperature.
like,
usually it's off of temperature.
There you go.
Yeah. I bet that's it.
And if you have neighborhoods where the homes are close together, and somebody's not there, and it catches on fire, then the neighbor catches on. So maybe it's a safety.
Yeah, I don't know like how it could be determined, but like there's definitely been times when I've just been cooking and like I didn't even burn something and my smoke detectors have gone off.
I know, me too.
So like if they were that sensitive and then all of a sudden my sprinklers went off, I'd be like, yo, this is
that's what I was
not
thinking.
cool.
I think temperature sets them off.
Yeah, that would make more sense because fire is very hot.
It would.
Way hotter than something you're burning like on your stove alone.
Yeah.
You know, okay. That would make sense. Okay. I mean, I think that's all of our maintenance there.
It's a lot. That was a whole lot. I mean, I feel like we went through a whole big house and the yard and the septic and well and
inside and out.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully it helps someone to think about doing some maintenance with their property.
Yeah, and if you don't want to do any of it, just be aware of it. Set some calendar reminders. Find a good maintenance person that you can trust and keep using them set some prices and keep using them, because as they become more familiar with your home, that's going to help when things break, you know. Like my plumber knows my crawl space. So when the hose went out, he was like, "Oh yeah, easy peasy. I know where it comes out and blah 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 and this, that, and the third." So
Yep. And as a homeowner, start out with something small. Change the filter. Get more confident, and then you'll get more confident and do the next thing and YouTube it or
for sure
call Corb. Or
a great small thing too is like take that outlet from next to your bed and replace it with a USB outlet.
Yep.
Kill the breaker. It's 3 wires and a screwdriver. Take you 2 seconds. Like it really will take you a total of 20 minutes, and 15 of that is watching a YouTube video.
Yes.
Like that's an easy one.
Yep.
So.
And on a side note, if you're going to sell your house, do all this stuff. Go through all the maintenance that needs to be done. It could be a simple thing for your HVAC as like a service, but if it comes on an inspection report, it makes it a lot bigger than it really needs to be. So get those big items looked at. Have the gutters looked at. Easy to just have the gutters clean versus well, they could have been sitting there for 6 months and now they're saying there's something wrong with. There's just a lot of things you could avoid if you
a new homeowner freaks out when they see mold on a roof and all you had to do was pay $200 to pressure wash it off.
Exactly.
And be like, it's fine.
Yeah. Or your vapor barrier has a bunch of
holes,
rips and
tape
holes.
it up. Get a new piece.
Tape it up or get a new one and make it look nice and shiny. And
you can buy it at Home Depot. It's literally plastic.
The inspector's going to say nicer things.
It's a roll of plastic. Like this is not rocket.
It isn't.
It's a roll of plastic.
Yeah,
and tape.
It's amazing
it's
how
literally
it.
Plastic. Yeah. And as always, thanks for listening. You can check out the Orange Hammer podcast on all the social medias. Write me if you want to come on the show. You want to talk about anything. Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. We're on Spotify. You know that because you're listening to us. Stacy, Chris, thank you so much for coming by. We'll do it again soon.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
you.
All right, bye, everybody.